Have you ever imagined a mirror that refused to reflect you, but revealed the face of another? In a hidden coastal village deep in the old lands of West Africa, a struggling fisherman once hauled a strange treasure from the river's shadowy waters. It was no ordinary glass. This mirror whispered in the dark. It showed him visions of a woman who did not exist in the flesh. But the woman, they say, wasn't mortal. From that moment on, he was changed forever. This is the tale long buried in memory of a man who fell under the spell of a river goddess, known by many as Yamaya, spirit of allure and secrecy, whose presence blurred the line between worlds. To some, it sounds like pure legend, yet its traces still linger in chants, in waterside altars, and in the fearful gaze of fishermen who never cast nets where the current runs deep. And it all began in a forbidden bend of the river. So settle in, because you're watching History of Africa. Before we journey further, I know so many of you are watching from across the globe, all sharing a passion for Africa's hidden past. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'll be there connecting with you. And if you're enjoying this journey, hitting like and subscribing would mean more than words can say. Now, back to our story. In the delta lands of Kalunga, life flowed slow, like smoke curling above still waters. Hidden between twisting creeks, the village rested against a wall of mangroves, alive with the steady pulse of fishing life. Barefoot children splashed in the shallows, elders tended fires where fish dried under woven roofs, and the men rowed narrow canoes that glided like shadows across the tide, casting nets worn soft by generations. But Kalunga held its secrets, laws older than memory. Every child grew up warned of the 3 cursed passages branching from the main river. These waters were restless, forever shifting, and no bird dared soar above them. Their only mark was silence. No frogs croaked. No ripples broke the surface. Not even the air dared stir. Around glowing embers at night, gray-bearded storytellers whispered, "The unseen ones dwell where sunlight cannot reach. If your net sinks into their dwelling, forgiveness will never come. Cast only where mortals are meant to cast, and leave the hidden waters to the gods." Among those who heard these words was Bako, a weary fisherman in his 40s, his palms rough like bark and his face carved with years of struggle. At home, a frail wife lay coughing, 2 children cried for food, and his canoe barely kept afloat, patched more times than he could count. The river no longer offered him bounty, the fish seemed to vanish, or perhaps the river spirits turned their backs on him. Bako was no fool, yet hunger twists wisdom into risk. One fog-soaked dawn, long before light touched the mangroves, he set out alone. His canoe slipped beyond the familiar waters, past the 2nd cursed passage, until it reached the 3rd. Here, the river was unnaturally black, motionless as stone. Not even the sky mirrored on its surface. Even the trees bent away, as though refusing to witness what lurked beneath. Bako whispered a trembling plea to his forefathers before lowering his net into the still water. No ripples, no weight tugged back. But when he hauled it up, his chest tightened. Snared within the damp reeds was not fish, but a mirror unlike any he had ever known. Its frame curved in an oval, wrapped with curling silver and dotted with coral beads, gleaming strangely against the morning haze. And within that shine, she appeared. A woman's face, breathtaking beyond belief. Her eyes glimmered like polished river pebbles, her lips bloomed red as hibiscus, and her dark hair flowed like silk beneath unseen waves, moving as if alive. Yet the vision wasn't his reflection. It didn't mimic his motions. She stared straight at him. He blinked, and the image vanished. But when night came, as he lay in his hut, faint voices drifted around him, fluid and melodic, like water streaming across hidden stones. The whispers seeped out from the hidden mirror, now buried beneath a woven mat in the corner. The voice called his name, Bako. His eyes snapped open. No one was there, just the drip of water in a place that should have been dry. The following night, the same murmur returned. Then again, and again, until one damp evening, with soft rain falling against the thatched roof, the voice grew sharper, no longer far away, but so near it felt like warm breath on his neck. Bako rose quietly, a candle flickering beside him. Across the hut, his wife and children lay fast asleep, curled together under a raffia mat. Moving carefully, he reached the corner where the mirror was hidden under cloth. With trembling hands, he pulled it free and lifted the covering. Her face emerged once more, sharper, nearer, alive with impossible beauty. And then, for the very first time, she spoke. You summoned me. Bako staggered backward, chest pounding as if it might burst. Yet the voice carried no anger. It flowed soft, soothing, almost hypnotic. When he blinked, she was no longer confined to the mirror. She stood inside his hut, water dripping in small pools around her bare feet. Her skin gleamed like silvered moonlight reflecting off the river. Her eyes glowed with a liquid brilliance, her long hair clinging in dark, wet strands down her back. Adorned in necklaces of shells, tiny bones, and pearls, she wore a garment that shimmered gold and emerald, glittering like scales beneath a flame. She was breathtaking, both divine and dreadful in her stillness. "I am the one they caution you about," she spoke, her voice flowing smooth as satin. "But I am no bringer of harm," she whispered. "I come to those who are lost." Tari's throat closed. No words would come. The woman glided nearer, her presence cool and damp, placing a hand against his cheek that felt like river water at dawn. "You are hungry. You are afraid. Let me help." Her voice carried both comfort and danger, a lullaby woven with warning. And then, like mist touched by the morning sun, she dissolved, leaving only silence behind. At dawn, Tari rose with the thought it had been nothing but a dream, until his gaze fell on a gleaming pile of coins resting beside the mirror. Gold, heavy and ancient, coins from lands he had never seen. His fingers trembled as he touched them. But this was only the beginning. Days later, his net swelled with rare, fat fish without struggle. His ailing wife, who had battled fever for weeks, drank from a pot of herbs mysteriously left by his bedside, and by morning she rose, whole and strong once more. The herbs had not been placed there by his hand. Yet they healed. Laughter filled the hut once more as the children ate their fill, their bellies warm, their faces bright with joy. For the first time in years, hope flickered like a steady flame. But every night, she returned. Mami Wata. She never spoke the name, yet Tari knew. The goddess of rivers and oceans, of wealth, desire, and dangerous secrets. Her legend had been whispered by firelight, half worship, half warning. She was the spirit who dwelled between two realms, the world of men and the unseen kingdom beneath the waves. And she spoke to him of that world, of coral palaces glowing with eerie, living light, of drums that thundered without sound, of a place where he could rise beyond the life of a fisherman. She promised him more. Power, kingship. But slowly, her whispers shifted. Her visits grew heavier with expectation. And soon, she began to ask for things. At first, her requests were harmless. His time, his presence, his ear bent toward her whispers. But soon, she hungered for more. "Tell me," she asked, her silver eyes gleaming, "what fears keep your children awake? What dreams stir inside your wife's heart? What lies have you spoken to your neighbors?" And under her spell, Tari confessed it all. He gave her secrets as if they were gifts. He began deceiving his wife, slipping away in the night under the pretense of fishing, just to kneel by the riverbank and lose himself in her reflection. The mirror, once hidden under mats, now never left his side, wrapped in cloth, carried like a treasure. But the village noticed. His laughter faded, his presence at the square vanished, and whispers followed him like shadows. Then one fateful evening, as he hastily concealed the mirror beneath a pot of smoked fish to keep it from his wife's eyes, it betrayed him. A crack split the glass, jagged like lightning, and in its fractured shimmer, her face appeared, no longer gentle, but cold, displeased, and watching. The next dawn, puddles shimmered across the hut floor, though the skies had stayed clear. From that moment, the veil between dream and waking began to tear. Her voice followed Tari through the market stalls, soft as mist in his ear. Strands of black and blue hair seemed to flash between the mangroves. Gone the instant he turned. One evening, when his fingertips brushed the mirror's edge, a flood of icy water filled his lungs, choking him, though he stood on dry ground. The boundary was crumbling, and Mami Wata was no longer content with shadows. She was crossing over. Weeks passed, and Otu began to murmur. Tari no longer joined the men at dawn by the riverbank. His laughter vanished. His nets, unlike theirs, never came up empty. His wife now wore a wrapper of foreign silk no trader remembered selling. His children sucked on sweets that no merchant claimed to bring. Unease spread through the village like mist. The elders whispered by the fire, voices low. "The river has claimed him," one said. Another shook his head. "No, He gave himself to it. Old legends resurfaced. A fisherman once lured by a spirit bride, lost forever to the waves, leaving only an empty canoe drifting at dawn. Many believed Tari would share that fate. But it was his wife, Ma, who felt the fracture most sharply. Though her health had returned, her husband seemed absent, his eyes forever pulled toward the water. He no longer held her gaze, his words cut short, restless even at the table. Then one morning, she found him bent before a mirror she had never seen, whispering to it like a lover. When she tried to take it, his fury erupted. "Don't lay a hand on that," Tari snapped, his voice edged with a tone Ma had never heard before. That night, shaken and restless, she slipped from their hut and made her way to the dwelling of Mama Ibi, the village priestess. The old woman, sharp-eyed and silver-haired, had never taken a husband, choosing instead to walk in the company of spirits. She had outlasted storms, sickness, and the reigns of 3 chiefs, earning both reverence and fear. Ma poured out the truth, every detail of Tari's strange behavior and the cursed mirror. Mama Ibi burned herbs in a clay bowl, her gaze fixed on the curling smoke. After a long, heavy pause, she spoke. "He carries a mark. The river has claimed him. That mirror is no blessing, it is a threshold." She warned that Tari's spirit was already slipping, dissolving piece by piece into Mami Wata's world. If nothing was done soon, Mama Ibi warned, the river would claim Tari completely. And when a goddess takes, she whispered with dread, her hunger is never satisfied with just one soul. That very night, Tari stood alone at the riverbank, his feet sinking into the wet sand, the mirror clutched tight against his chest. The moon hung high, casting silver light on water that shimmered with eerie designs, curling and shifting as though alive, each wave whispering his name. Then she rose again, Mami Wata. This time her voice was not a whisper but a song, deep and hypnotic, sending gusts of wind racing over the water and ripples shivering across its surface. Her glowing eyes locked on him as she extended her hand. "Come," she beckoned. "Come beneath the waves. Your life above the water is nothing," she murmured, her voice both sweet and sharp. "But below you will reign. I will place the crown upon you." As she spoke, the river opened like a curtain, revealing a vision shimmering in the depths, an entire kingdom of coral palaces and pearl towers. Figures with silver-lit eyes moved in graceful silence, drums thundered in the weightless currents, and great thrones of bone and shell gleamed while unseen voices chanted his name. Then her tone shifted, colder, commanding. "But first, a price." She extended a silk-wrapped bundle toward him. When Tari loosened the folds, his stomach dropped. Inside lay a tiny carved canoe, and seated within was a wooden child, its features unmistakably modeled after his eldest son. Her smile did not falter. "An offering for an offering," she whispered. "When the new moon rises, you will return. Bring him, set him upon the water, and the mirror will stay open for eternity." Bako collapsed to the ground, lungs tight as if the river itself had gripped him. He stared into her silver eyes and saw both paradise and doom. "You pledged me your soul," Mami Wata whispered, "and your bloodline is bound within it." With that, she dissolved beneath the waves. Bako lingered on the riverbank until dawn, body trembling like a reed in the current. The days that followed were smothered in silence. Food lost its taste, his hands shook, and every glance at his son echoed with the goddess's haunting melody. He stood torn between loyalty to his kin and the pull of the deep. Each night, the mirror's surface grew heavier and blacker, as though marking the hours to the new moon. And when it came, the air over the village of Otu grew dense with dread. Not a single leaf moved in the night air. The forest seemed frozen. Even the crickets that usually sang through the reeds were silent, as though nature itself was holding vigil. Bako stood barefoot at the water's edge, his young son tied against his chest in a faded cloth wrap. The boy, barely 6 years old, slept peacefully, untouched by the storm brewing around him. In Bako's free hand, the mirror pulsed faintly, no longer glass but a heart of dull blue light, throbbing like a living creature. The river's surface shifted in strange ripples, hypnotic, luring. Each step Bako took into the water sent chills through his legs, the current rising to his knees, his chest tight with fear and yearning. Mami Wata's command echoed in his skull, "Set the child upon the water. The mirror will unlock. A crown is waiting for you." The sky without a moon was black as ash, yet the river glimmered with a strange glow, luring him further. Just as Bako leaned forward to set his son upon the surface, a voice split the silence. Sharp, breaking, heavy with sorrow. "Bako, what are you doing?" It was his wife. She emerged from the tree line, Mama Ibi beside her, and behind them a cluster of villagers holding torches that flickered against the night. Their firelight stretched shadows across the mangroves, turning the bank into a stage of trembling shapes. His wife's feet were bare, her wrapper damp at the edges. She had trailed him through the dark, praying her fears were lies. But now the truth stood in front of her. "That is our child, Bako. Our son. Look at him." "You don't see it," Bako stammered, trembling, eyes wide with desperation. "She promised us everything. No hunger, no pain. She'll give us a life beyond this one. She does not belong to the world of men." Mama Ibi cried, stepping forward, lifting a calabash smeared with sacred chalk and stuffed with healing herbs. "You are drowning, not in water, but in greed." The wind roared, whipping through the trees, and the river shuddered violently. Overhead, the sky tore open with thunder, though no storm had been foretold. And then, from the swirling heart of the current, Mami Wata emerged. No longer a whisper, no longer a flickering glass, but unveiled in her full and terrifying splendor. Her figure loomed high above them, rising from the river like a pillar woven of stormlight and silk. Her eyes blazed like molten silver, and the golden bangles on her arms clattered as the air howled around her. Her hair streamed outward, moving as though still submerged, yet her face was stripped of softness, only wrath remained. "You dare resist me, Bako," she roared. "After all I've placed in your hands." Waves pounded against the shore at her command. The trees along the bank bowed violently, bending under an invisible weight. Villagers collapsed to the ground in trembling submission. And there stood Bako, unmoving, trapped between the goddess's blazing rage and his wife's tear-filled eyes. "You swore I would wear the crown," he whispered. His voice quivered as he murmured to the goddess, "A true king does not falter before duty." Mami Wata hissed, her tone sharp as broken glass. "You welcomed my gifts. You filled your home with my blessings. Now it is time to repay." She lifted her hand, and the river rose like a living wall. The child in Bako's arms whimpered, then cried out. Without warning, Mama Ibi hurled the calabash to the ground, smashing it into pieces. A burst of white chalk swirled upward, creating a circle of protection around Bako. With fierce determination, she began chanting in the forgotten tongue, summoning the ancient spirits to cut the tether, to drag Bako's soul firmly back to earth. The river howled like a beast. Mami Wata shrieked in fury, her divine beauty twisting into something horrific, eyes swirling like whirlpools, her mouth stretching wide into endless darkness. The mirror seared Bako's palm, smoke curling from its burning edges. In one frantic surge, he flung the mirror into the river. It shattered on the surface with a deafening crack, a sound like thunder tangled with breaking glass. Instantly, the glow was extinguished. The raging wind stilled. Mami Wata froze mid-current, her silver gaze locked upon Bako with a terrifying stillness. "You may cast me aside," she intoned, her voice rolling up from the abyss below. "But no soul who beholds me leaves untouched." With that, she vanished. The river smoothed as if nothing had ever stirred it. Silence fell heavy once more, and Bako dropped to his knees, clutching his weeping child as tears streamed down his face. When dawn arrived, the sun rose softly over Otu Creek. Bako awoke inside his hut, lying beside his wife and children. He was breathing, still among the living. The cursed mirror was gone, yet something within him had altered. His hair, once dark, was streaked with gray as though the years had passed in a single night. And when his eyes opened, they revealed only emptiness. Once sharp and full of light, they were now pale, clouded, unseeing. Blindness had become his silent price for debts nearly paid in blood. Still, a faint smile touched his lips. He had chosen his family over the abyss. He had returned from the edge of another realm. Seasons drifted by in the quiet riverside village of Otu, and with them, the tale of Bako the fisherman deepened. He lived simply now, gray-haired, blind, and walking with slow, measured steps. Bako could no longer cast his nets into the river, yet every evening he sat upon a wooden stool near its edge, surrounded by children eager for his tales. He never spoke Mami Wata's name aloud, but the story of a man who reached too deeply into the river's hidden heart, only to return changed forever, was carried through the village like a hushed song, traded in markets, murmured at firesides, etched into memory. "I have seen the river's true face," Bako would whisper, his blind eyes turned toward the water. "It seizes through desire." Though his vision had faded, his words painted bright pictures: kingdoms beneath the tide, queens with silvered eyes, mirrors that revealed not truth but longing, and the danger of craving too much. Mami Wata remains one of the most enigmatic and honored spirits across West and Central Africa, especially near the coastal stretches of the Niger Delta. She is often imagined as a dazzling mermaid-like being, human above the waist, her lower form a serpent or shining fish. At times she holds a mirror, combs her flowing black hair, or sits adorned in gold, silks, and seashell jewels. Her beauty is unmatched, her allure irresistible. Yet within that beauty lies peril. She is goddess of wealth and temptation, of healing and ruin. Like the waters she rules, she both grants and takes away. In Bako's tale, she embodies the seduction of unchecked longing, the lure of escape, the promise of more, and the danger of believing that what lies beyond the human world can ever cure the pains of it. Yet the blessings of Mami Wata never come freely, for every gift carries a spiritual price, and those who accept must be ready to return something of equal weight. The mirror of longing that Bako dragged from the river held layers of meaning. In many African traditions, mirrors are more than polished glass, they are thresholds between realms. To gaze within is to invite dialogue between the spirit world and the human heart. In this story, the mirror did not reveal Bako's face, it unveiled his buried desires: wealth, healing, escape from hardship. But instead of resisting that hunger, he surrendered to it, nearly sacrificing all that mattered. Across Africa and throughout the diaspora, Mami Wata is revered through offerings, drumming, dance, and ceremony. Her veneration merges African spirituality with threads of Indian and European influence, particularly in the colonial era when foreign treasures, mirrors, perfumes, silks, were rare and coveted. She remains a hybrid goddess, embodying the fluid exchange between cultures, the tension of tradition and modernity, the visible and the unseen. Even in the modern world, Mami Wata whispers to those caught between two lives, torn by survival, the chase for wealth, and the pull of spiritual truth. The tale of Bako and the mirror of longing is a reminder that not every gift carries blessing. Not every desire should be pursued, and not every doorway should be crossed. What comes easily may slip away even faster. Bako's fate stands as a warning, a reflection of choices that test us all. So when you see water shimmer strangely or an object shine where it should not, remember, the river watches, and it never forgets its debt. If you found meaning in this tale and want to hear more legends from African mythology, like this video, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Which African deity or myth should I tell next? Was it the mystery of Mami Wata that drew you in, or the sorrow of Bako's path? Together, we can keep these roots alive, one story at a time.